Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera dan salam sehat bagi kita semua. Aloha from paradise, and that is Honolulu, Hawaii, and Sampurasun. I always open my public address anywhere in the world with Sampurasun. It is part of a useful local wisdom I inherited from the community where I was born almost 73 years ago in Bogor, a city in the West Java province of Indonesia. It simply means I ask for permission to talk to you today, and I also ask for forgiveness if what I say is inappropriate or incorrect. The audience are expected to reply with rampes. Yes, rampes, meaning apologies accepted. So if I talk nonsense today, I'm already forgiven, correct? Thank you very much. Good morning, Excellencies. The Minister of Communication and Information, Bapak Johnny Plata, distinguished speakers, and esteemed participants. I want to pay tribute to the conference organizing committee chaired by Dr. Guntarto and his team for the hard work in planning and implementing this important meeting. In the last decade, digital communication and virtual learning revolution, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, has transformed our society without any mercy. It is a matter of to be or not to be. How then do we survive? Hopefully, this conference can enlighten us and provide some mitigation strategies on how to survive and prosper in the era of Society 5.0. Those who fail to do so will become dinosaurs. As a storyteller, my education method is not to give solutions, but to raise relevant issues and to suggest what to think about. Hence, my presentation will give a helicopter view of the challenges and opportunities to safeguard us beyond disruption in the approaching super smart society 5.0. The topic of my presentation is reform and opportunities. Has COVID-19 tsunami created innovations and disruptions in communication and education? My presentation will also give some keywords or tech words which you will need to Google it for yourself for more elaboration because I cannot cover everything in detail in this 20 or 25 minutes presentation. Solution must be developed according to specific context, needs, and cultural wisdom of those who are concerned. The video of my presentation and the PowerPoint materials will all be available in my Dropbox, which you can see here. So go ahead and take a photo of the slide so you can review and download at your own convenience and review it at your own time. As a professional courtesy and ethics, I also want to acknowledge the inputs and accumulation of shared ideas from my networks and the many meetings I had globally, such as in Europe, Africa, Asia, and United States. So these 8 ideas that I share with you today are a combination and discussion results with my many network friends globally. As some of you may know, every quarter I issue a list of Ronnie's 10 sexiest word or terminologies or jargon or concept that's important and relevant to education and development. Here is the list of the sexiest word, the 10 sexiest word for the fourth quarter of 2021. However, in view of time limitation, I will only discuss 3 or 4 of these concepts during this presentation. You can Google it to fact check these terminologies or these concepts by yourself. Let's now talk stories. In this short 25 minutes presentation, I will share with you 3 case stories as you can see in this slide. The first one, we're going to talk about the transformation from Industry 4.0 to Super Smart Society 5.0. Then we'll talk about the second one. You got a slot machine in your pocket. We'll postpone that until later on. And also the third case story will be, you should not only get the COVID vaccine, but you should also get the communication inoculation and belief immunization. Those are the 3 stories we're going to discuss. Let's go back to the first one. The tsunami of digital communication revolution accelerated during the COVID pandemic has created a fait accompli to society globally in the way we communicate, the way we learn, and the way we behave. We have just been transformed almost overnight to become digital netizens, virtual communicators, and remote mediated learners. We have become less personable. The digital communication revolution, perpetuated by the COVID-19, have made society become less human, less sociable, and less civic-oriented. How then can we restore and increase more collaborative and integrative personalized communication and social behavior in order to improve personable family, group, and community spirit, interaction, collaboration, and cohesiveness? So the need for a more human-centered communication and learning process and interaction is important, especially in preparing our society for the upcoming Super Smart Society 5.0, not the Industry 4.0 anymore. Let me first clarify the important concept and the principle of Super Smart Society 5.0 as defined by its proponent, the Kei Dan-ren of Japan. The concept of Society 5.0 was introduced by Prime Minister Shinzo Abe at the CeBIT Computer Fair in Hanover, Germany in March 2017. The biggest strategic paradigm of change is the shift from digitalization to personalization. In the midst of the prevailing digital technology revolution and the infodemic on the Internet Addiction Disorder, IAD, the paradigm change from Industry 4.0 to Society 5.0 is really a tall order. It calls for a more human-centered communication and education process and practice. It also calls for a better humanness interaction, not a humanless communication and educational process and outcomes. Essentially, digital technology must be smartly applied, used fairly for more just community and society collaboration and shared benefits. It should not create a digital gap, especially conflict resulting in inequitable benefits gap socially, economically, politically, or culturally, including disunity and national disintegration. I'm also pleased to observe that many younger generation entrepreneurs, especially from Asia, such as the executive from Tokopedia, Bukalapak, OVO, etc., are venturing into many startups which try to provide practical solutions to those problems. Fortunately, there are startups which are sharing and promoting tacit knowledge based on practical lessons learned and best practices of boot camps, accelerators, and incubators, which are not often offered at universities. These slides show just a few examples of what and how, for instance, Tech in Asia, SIAP, and that is Social Innovation Accelerator Program, of Indonesia, and these are startups, are initiating by involving the young and successful startup leaders of Asia in sharing their best practices and their lessons learned from their experiences. Let's look at the new faces and role models of these digital technology company giants of Asia. So based on what I discussed for the case story number one, here are the challenges for reform and opportunities. How can we stimulate and provide netizens with better and personable communication and learning processes and methods? Another one, how can digital technology application and AI or artificial intelligence based technology, especially machine learning and deep learning, be used to increase more equitable benefits for all and collaborative actions? How can social and personal networking principles, strategies, and methods such as crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, shared economy be utilized and scaled up, especially to help the digitally illiterates? Case story number two, check your pockets. You've got a slot machine in your pocket. Do you know that? Well, COVID 19 has also accelerated the perpetuation process of another type of pandemic, and that is the IAD. And what is it? The Internet Addiction Disorder. Well, you may not have this one, but most likely you will have this one in your pocket, correct? And this created the two additional or new pandemic, and that is infobesity, not because you're obese, and the other one is the Internet Addiction Disorder, IAD. One of the reasons for such an addiction is due to the other dangerous virus called dopamine. The increasing dependency on mobile devices by adults and children is worrisome, as the use of smartphones, as you know, is highly addictive. Many mobile apps or applications have been developed using sophisticated software technologies that produce dopamine stimuli for users, especially children, through their use of games, among many other applications. And here is a secret. Not many people know, even psychology educators nor practitioners, about the new science of captology. My alma mater, Stanford University, has a persuasive technology laboratory directed by Professor B.J. Hawk, who pioneered the science and study of captology. It is basically a scientific and psychological method on how computer applications, programming, and algorithm are designed to manipulate our brains. Very, very few universities have incorporated captology into their curriculum. However, many startup companies and corporate disruptors are using artificial intelligence, big data analytics, deep learning, and machine learning methods in designing and developing their innovations. An increasing number of such companies are now applying captology principles and methods in producing and distributing dopamine through their services and products. Here are some of the slides related to captology and the detailed operational information on that. You can check it for yourself, and I will not be able to go through this information because of limitation of time, but you can check it for yourself or Google it for more elaboration. But here they are, and for you to check it out yourself, okay? So based on the case story number 2, here are the challenges for reform and opportunities. The first one, how can we mitigate and minimize the negative effects of digital technology, and that is to reduce the addiction or the AID, the Internet Addiction Disorder. Second one, how can netizens, and more importantly, policy and decision makers, legislators, and educators be made to understand and prevent the negative impacts of the psychological concept of captology? How can the science of captology be incorporated into the relevant educational curricula, especially at the university level? And finally, how can innovative startups and services and products be developed in order to counter the pervasive practical monetization of captology application by certain companies and by the private sector? Now, case story number 3. You should not only get COVID vaccine, but you should also get communication inoculation. All of us are now glued to our mobile devices to function and survive in our daily lives. It is used for almost any conceivable task, including shopping, entertainment, learning, leisure, and fun. As a consequence, we have another health problem in addition to the obesity or overweight, as I told you. We now have infobesity due to the infodemic. Unfortunately, it is often misused for hoax and hate disinformation of false knowledge or manipulated ideas. We now live in an era of post-truth with the conveniences of accessing and receiving abundant of information and data, but we are also bombarded daily with many disinformation. Furthermore, we need to realize that data and information is the new oil in the era of disruption and super smart society 5.0, as it is needed for big data analytics and other AI or artificial intelligence based programs and applications. The democratization of information and communication, plus the almost free digital communication and networking tools, give netizens the rights and ability to generate, distribute, and manipulate information on any subject, often without responsibility, ethics, and etiquettes. These disinformation efforts, often using AI-based algorithm, can create political, social, religious, or ethnic disharmony and conflicts, leading to mental distress and impersonal social behavior. Such communication can create stress, conflict, fear, uncertainties, anxieties, and other mental disorder. Therefore, society should not only get COVID vaccines. To counter the infodemic disinformation, people should also be given communication inoculation and belief immunization, as proposed by the Yale and Columbia psychologist William McGuire back in 1961. He proposed a theory of communication of inoculation and demonstrated that vulnerability to persuasion can be prevented by belief immunization because it confers resistance to persuasive influences. So, the concepts and methods of communication inoculation application should be incorporated into the transdisciplinary curricula of education at all levels. It should include all aspects such as critical assessment on communication processing, communication ethics, netiquettes, integrity, and responsibility. The ability to consider situational context, local wisdom, civic values in information filtering and management would be important to master. In addition, the issues of privacy and protection of data security and the danger of cyber crimes have created controversies regarding the privacy of personal data, information rights, communication regulations, and enforcement. Cyber law education and digital communication legislation regarding regulatory frameworks, as well as cybersecurity and cyber forensic aspects, will need to be given more attention and higher priority by educators and policymakers. But the difficult question on such issues is the balance between regulation and freedom of communication and information. Regardless, the rights to information and communication will need to be accompanied by responsibilities and self controls, as shown in these slides. So, based on my case story number 3, here are some of the challenges for reform and opportunities. Number 1, how can netizens be assisted to become digitally literate and to master the competencies of being astute and critical communicators? Another one, how can user-friendly AI technologies, that is artificial intelligence based technologies, and practical online community and group networking applications be applied and used to increase social and family communication and communal interaction? How can the principles and methods of communication inoculation be applied into learning programs and incorporated in all levels of public educational curricula, including cybersecurity and cyber forensic? And finally, how to narrow the generational gap and mitigate the generational conflict between the younger generation, including the FANG generation, and that is, you know what? Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google generation, and their parents and senior professors regarding their incompatibility of perception, aspiration, and career choices as a result of their digital literacy competency differences. And these are important questions, important issues that needs to be discussed in another conference. So here is the final question. Are you ready? And also, of course, are your kids ready for a super smart society 5.0? Well, all the best to you and thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.